Assassin's Creed. The mammoth franchise, with humble beginnings as a Prince of Persia spin-off game, has grown to titanic proportions. The alternative historical timeline is spread pulp fictionizingly thin across dozens of video games, let alone the dozens of books and comics, apps and web games, short films, a feature film, and canonical Easter eggs in other media, not to mention the 3 separate Netflix shows on the way. It's not off base to call the series convoluted, but it shouldn't be, and I've aimed to make it far less so. Hello there! I'm ActualSpider-Man, your friendly neighborhood mentor, here to help unweave the confusing web of AC by spinning everything into chronological order to see the entire picture in sequence. From the dawn of creation to the modern day, I annotated my findings into one continuous timeline, the full story of Assassin's Creed without all the jumping around. I've been a lifelong fan of the franchise, from those very same Prince of Persia days. Watching the series grow and dig deeper into the mysteries of our real-world history was always something I looked forward to with every release, buggy hell or not. The stories were in there, and I wanted to uncover them all. The last 3 years of my life, as this version of my codex comes to a close, have been the most meticulous, scholarly, and hyper-analytical moments I've subjected myself to, even throughout my college days. Codex Temporis is the culmination of those years, working full-time while happily tackling this self-appointed second full-time job, incessantly searching, researching, and re-researching every shred of direct and indirect media connected to the franchise. Hundreds upon hundreds of hours have gone into nailing down every pertinent detail to the letter, and creating a new tool not just for longtime fans, but newcomers to the series jumping in at any point, from any medium. If you're a diehard canonist, rest assured, the canon is what lattices the DNA of my timeline, and the backbone that was built upon can be seen in full display. But I'm interested in every bit of lore I can get my hands on, and that includes outside media, Easter eggs and cameos alike. I began my Codex Temporis project with the selfish intent to stop needing the fandom wiki to jumpstart my memory on who did what, for which side, when. Not that this one source by any means turns the wiki obsolete, what with the full stories laid to bear there. But therein was the rub. The wiki at time of writing has 18,000 web pages of info that could be at any length, many of which are extremely unlikely to be stumbled into via links. I wanted the narrative at my fingertips. I also had a fondness for the Le Deux Royaumes comics. I call them 1 through 6 in the Codex. Growing up a Spidey comic nerd as a young kid, and those being the first Assassin's Creed comics I could wrap my Spidey fingers around. The big caveat of those comics on the wiki is a large part of what drove me to this zenith of inspiration. The wiki claims,
"The book features both canonical and non-canonical stories, with the modern-day aspects of the plot involving Desmond Miles and Jonathan Hawke being non-canonical, unlike the characters and the plots in the past following Numa Al-Campson, Aquilus, and Accipitor."
If they fit within the narrative and are part of the franchise, why couldn't they? The answer hung on Clay Kazmarek, as so many answers do. He escaped Abstergo in 4 Hawk and fainted back into the assassin fold, rather than the bleak but saving grace end we saw unfold across the first 4 console games. Well, Subject 16 did, which is Clay Kazmarek, but the comics call Subject 16 Michael Kazmarek for some reason. This got my wheels turning that nothing is true. Everything can be, should be, and is permitted as the saying goes, and the first fire ignited in my quest for assassin truth. I did the due diligence, or so I thought. I researched real hard for 5 months straight, and in 2018 I released my first oh-so-erroneous attempt. Yet, you all in the community couldn't devour it fast enough, netting 7.3k views and over 600 downloads by 2021. The pudding was proof enough for me that I was onto something radioactive here, and the work grew and grew with so many of you chiming in with new things to track and research, helping and encouraging me along in this dauntingly arduous and ever-expanding quest. So many, in fact, that I couldn't help but put my research to use. With great assassin knowledge comes great responsibility to the creed, as I like to say. So as Valhalla was announced, I started swinging by the comments to quell confusion from this no doubt confounding series, and started adopting the moniker I use today. But my spidey senses caught on that there were many similar questions and curiosities that held people hostage. So as 2.0 was released in 2020 right before Song of Glory No. 1, I decided to really make this something for people to rally behind. I built our humble assassin cell over at r/Codex Temporis, and to test my mettle I held an AMA on r/Assassin's Creed, where hundreds of you came and participated, some even bringing the heat with ones I had to re-research yet again. Our humble cell doubled in size from that initial outreach and the AMA, and you all drove me to keep digging as Valhalla was upon us. I spent a solid 250 hours inside Valhalla's gorgeous world of a half-dozen locales, soaked up and squeezed out the hundreds of pages worth of pertinent information to my work, and codified it into AC Valhalla Codex Temporized. I had a thorough understanding of the world before me, but there were still mysteries left unanswered. There was in particular the final resting place of Magister Vitus, whose cryptic message was mostly solved by Access the Animus. Being the type to look at things firsthand to get a better feel for it, I went and found his assassin tomb, decrypted the Latin myself, and discovered something ATA had mistranslated. If converted to English, it's possible, later confirmed to be intended, to get a haiku of Magister Vitus's final words. I posted these findings to the Reddit community, and was greeted with further context and a good find from the narrative director himself, Darby McDevitt. And then my research hit an all-time high. The Isu language was written and spoken for us for the first time, and I knew I had to understand it, if not try to speak it myself. The impressive detective work of both Access the Animus again and user Bool0011 gave me that understanding, and I then had the tools to build my greatest work to date, the Codex Transferendum, the full English to Isu dictionary and language guide, which has already crossed 2,000 views in just 1 month, but has also been picked up by 3 different Assassin's Creed communities, one even fully retranslating my work into Spanish, as a central resource for assassins everywhere. As if that wasn't enough, that work and your support got the attention of the Isu language creator himself, Antoine Henry of Ubisoft Singapore. He commended my efforts and humbled me with a personal Isu lesson, breaking down a theory I had on how to say the assassin motto in Isu, then gave us all the correct way to write and say it with an Isu word for permitted that he admitted won't appear in the game, meaning my work inadvertently caused a new droplet of lore to ebb from a developer themselves. Validation is sweet, my friends. In short, this tome and the theories I've spun from my research has been so much more than a passion project. It's another way for myself and the community to connect to Assassin fans of all levels, to open the gates to more than the games could ever convey, and the best cognitive device I've seen to help us all remember the millions of threads that make up this tapestry of Assassin's Creed. Thank you all for the continued support in those works, support the original creators, and look forward to the physical copy of this codex coming soon. We'll crawl on down into the comments over at r/Codex Temporis to hear of updates on 2.01 and 2.02 later on. But here on the channel, I want to expand upon the idea of this chronological story, so join us for Codex Temporis Historia Summatum, where we'll slowly unfold the entirety of the universe as told by Assassin's Creed's many source materials, narrated into simpler terms by your friendly neighborhood mentor, ActualSpider-Man of Earth 72. And in between those major dives, let's swap theories and lore questions in the comments for Feather on the Pulse, where we'll look into things you want to know and what's happening in the Assassin's Creed community as a whole. This channel is meant to be a place to learn first and foremost, myself included. A place to teach and a place to connect following a tandem close second. The brotherhood we build here will not be fueled by toxicity, but acceptance and education, let it be known. It will be a place to toss theories and learn of holes in prior thinking, while considering new ideas for what the developers and creators at Ubisoft could be meaning, or could be setting up. It will be critical of things that deserve it, and equally as generous of praise. Like it or love it, this is my favorite franchise, and something none of us likely have an ounce of control over. So I'm not about the other top search's way of trashing every new thing released. I'm here to soak up the story, good, bad, or otherwise, and tell them to you in a linear fashion. That's a Spidey guarantee. Constructive criticism is always welcome. This is a new venture for this Avenger, so things like editing will get smoother with time, but these videos will also take time for this lone spider to weave. So please be patient, and please be kind. That's all I ask. That, and if you would like to see either of these formats or content like this become regular uploads, or if you enjoy my dulcet tones and punny thwips, subscribe for more, and consider supporting the channel on Patreon, as much as I despise pandering, to help turn this into something better paying than the Avengers' promised exposure. Links in the description for everything we talked about today. Stay safe, mask up, and we'll hang out again soon, webheads. And always remember, uno buenos waheaid, nothing is true. O enoser zaraundiker, everything is permitted.